there is similar things of what she tackles with Lady Bird and Little Women, but they're nowhere near as emotionally engaging or effective.
Mm. Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
so yeah, that's pretty much my feelings. I mean, it's whatever.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I think it's interesting. Like, Ryan Gosling's gotten so much praise because, I think deservedly so. I think he's great in the film, but I actually think it's a little bit of a shame that like his other roles, where I think he's been far better in, are not getting looked at. Like, I think for me, like, maybe my favorite role of his is like, First Man, and you look at stuff like Blade Runner as well, and I think he's incredible in those films because of how subdued his performance is.
yeah,
And then you look at like his charisma in stuff like The Nice Guys and Barbie, and it actually takes incredible quality to be able to be that subdued and be believable and not wooden and such. So I actually think it's not maybe a shame, but sometimes annoying as well that something like this, a fun comedy, actually gets him looked at rather than the things I
Yeah.
think he should deservedly so should be looked at for.
No, I think it's amazing that you mentioned First Man because
yeah.
First Man's one of my favorite films. I think is incredible.
yeah,
So
it's
underrated, so
it's
underrated.
it's one of my favorite films of all time, and
Yeah, same.
his performance
Yeah.
is one of my favorites of all time. So
Yeah.
Like, it never gets talked about with like
Yeah.
Chazelle's films, just purely because the only reason I can think of is just because it's a biopic. But
yeah,
I think when biopics are obviously such a stale genre, and you've got one like First Man, which is so much more complex and creates a very interesting character piece, why does that not get talked about as something that breaks away from what is very stale as a genre
Yeah.
and a concept?
And the thing is, it doesn't overcomplicate itself as well. It's like
Yeah,
Chazelle just looks at the film and thinks, okay, what is the heart of the film? And he goes, the heart of the film is not our leading character. It's actually his daughter. The
Yeah.
whole film feels like a love letter to his daughter. It's just
Yeah.
it has that sort of Ad Astra sci-fi vibe of
Yeah.
like a fictional story, but it actually has like an incredible down-to-earth feel to it. And I use that
Yeah.
like intentionally
Very
because I
nice.
think
Very nice.
I use that intentionally just because it feels like that was what the director was going for. It feels like
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
want it to be down to earth without it being ironic down to earth.
Oh yeah.
And it's just it's an incredible. Like, I'm currently writing a sci-fi and I'm really really enjoying it. And the sort of aesthetic and vibe I want to go with is like a First Man and Astra sort of thing, where actually it is very down to earth, even though we're literally traveling the stars.
yeah,
Yeah.
It's like the messaging in Ad Astra, where it's like, we're all we've got. If we're all we've got, maybe it's time to deal with what we've got, and that's people closest to us. And it's a shame that the industry doesn't look at films like that and think, damn, that's quality. They would instead choose films like Green Book to give the Oscar to.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So-
You mentioned that as well. It's like I think that's again that's my favorite Brad Pitt performance ever. Like it's
Green Book?
in Ad Astra.
Yeah. I loved it when Brad Pitt played the black guy in
I was
Green
gonna
Book.
say, I thought that was Smash Rally.
Yeah, no, like
Did he wear a mask or was he in blackface?
blackface, pure blackface.
Oh.
He did the original Rat Pack film about Ocean's 11.
Did D.W. Griffith direct that one as well?
Yeah, he did actually. It was Brad Pitt. You would not believe
Daryl
what
loved
this
it.
this brother man has done.
Daryl's gonna show D.W. Griffith's Green Book to all of his future classes, which he'll never get to teach.
We were on the topic of Brad Pitt's like incredible performance in Ad Astra, and yeah, the thing is, I agree with that, but I think it's. Like in terms of his performance being incredible, my favorite performance from his is Assassination of Jesse James, because like obviously I'm a huge stan of the film and I love talking about it and stuff.
It's a good
But I
show.
think, yeah, I think Brad Pitt is an incredible actor, and I actually think he's been a little overlooked just because he's a good-looking guy, and good-looking people don't need too much. You're good-looking already; you don't need any more praise,
Yeah.
sort of thing. I genuinely think it's as shallow as that. They don't want to do it because he's so fit. But like Brad Pitt, I genuinely think is one of the greats of cinema.
Yeah, I think he was amazing in Babylon as well.
I thought you were about to say Bullet Train.
Oh,
Yeah, so did I.
I've never seen Bullet Train, nor will I.
Me neither. I'll tell you what, it's my favourite performance, him in Bullet Train. Now that is a performance. Yeah, no, mercifully, I've not seen the film.
Nah,
What,
you
Babylon?
should not.
No, I've seen Babylon, and I think
Oh.
it's a masterpiece.
Yeah.
Yes, Chazelle's best. and I hope time proves that.
Or to be honest with you, I think First Man.
It's First Man,
It's
but
either for me,
but
it's either
but
for me.
but yeah, like I loved it the first time around, Babylon, but when I watched it a second time, I was like, oh no, this is it connected with me for sure, and I was just like,
Yeah.
no, this is pretty special.
Films of 2023. So should we say our top tens of the year? Should we?
Yeah, give me a sec.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can we beforehand can we mention I don't know, a few honorable mentions, because I think
Yeah. Let's do honorable mentions. Ones that didn't. What
ones that
nearly made your list, but
what
didn't
nearly
quite.
made the list. Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret.
Nice. Yep.
It was
I really liked that.
Kelly Freeman Craig's second film. May December, Todd
Oh
Haynes.
yeah.
John Wick Chapter 4.
Yeah.
Asteroid C.
Yeah.
Anatomy of a Fall.
I'm very interested to
And
see to know what's on your top 10, because these
How
are.
How to Have
I've named a couple
Sex.
are on mine.
How to Have Sex was 11.
I didn't see
Can you
that.
teach me that?
Yes, please.
Sure.
Yeah, the trouble is with my 2023 list is I only saw 27 films, and it's just because, first of all, I've stopped going to the cinema, and second of all, I just haven't really been watching that many films.
Yeah.
But I still feel like I have a really strong top 10, because what I did do is I focused on making sure that I watched the films that I knew I was going to have a good time with.
Yeah.
Because if I know I'm going into a bad time, such as Madam Web, then I'm not going to watch it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just try not to waste my time with films. But like you just mentioned a bunch there that I haven't seen. You know, May December, You're There, God It's Me, Margaret. I really want to watch these. It's just that I haven't got around to them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Some of my honorable mentions that didn't quite make my top 10 were Blackberry, Fallen Leaves, Perfect Days, The Boy and the Heron, Zone of Interest didn't quite make my top 10, but I did want it to. Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1, absolute banger.
It is a banger.
Bottoms, John Wick 4, and Ferrari.
Oh, Poor Things as well. Poor Things was another one
Yeah.
honorable mention.
Nice.
Oh,
That was one of my
I could say
2024 films.
I could say Priscilla as well, because I thought
Yeah,
Priscilla was really good.
Yeah.
I haven't seen that, but I really want to see it.
Yeah.
Yeah, Priscilla was great.
Yeah. So Fast Sex, where are we ranking that in our top 10, fellas?
I never
That's my
never
number
seen
one.
it. I never
Did you
seen
not
it.
see it, right?
I didn't see it, no.
Oh, the ending is insane. You gotta watch it.
I just no.
He's had enough. He's had enough.
I have, because I was a fan of the series.
Yeah.
But it's just, yeah.
It's like that part in Spider-Man 2 where he's like, "I'm Spider-Man, no more," and he puts the suit in the trash.
I am Fast and Furious.
It's so far gone from what it was. It's
Yeah.
They used to drive on the ground, and now they drive in space.
Ridiculous as the meme is. Like the film's greatest attributes were its characters and its idea of family.
Oh
And
yeah.
that's just completely gone. Like or at least I don't see it. I just think it's an absolute ridiculously over the top.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think it started to go when that became the very same thing every film, and it became tired to the point where even casuals were taking the piss out of it.
yeah.
The very people the films make money off and allow them to make more is when your main audience is taking the piss out of you, but you're still getting funded. Then you have to lean into it.
Yeah.
If you're being contracted to make these things, and when you start to lean into it, then you yourself become the joke.
Yeah.
And I think that's where the quality really went downhill. Like it was speculated well before Fast 9 or F9 that they were going to go to space, and then they did, because like the idea was so hilarious that just joke about them going to space, and then they actually went to space. That's where they really, I personally think, even though it's really funny that they did it, but if they were going to do that, you make that the last film.
Yeah.
You make that because you don't continue the joke long after it's unwelcome.
Yeah. And I think as well, when Justin Lin started to really helmet and take over, I think the series was always doing ridiculous things, but Justin Lin kind of knew how to make them feel earned. Like Fast Five, like driving us safe through the streets of Rio is pretty stupid, but
But
the way it's put
it's
together,
great.
it
Yeah.
works. Yeah, but then when you get to like I don't even know who made like 8 and 9. Oh, it was
Was
Lynn.
it
It was Lynn for 9, of course. Yeah, but
yeah,
like
was it Gary, the one who did didn't
I
he
don't
do
know.
the
James Wan did 7, didn't he? Was it James Wan who did
James
7?
Wan did 7 and something F
Yeah.
Gary did 8, which was the guy who
Oh,
did
yeah.
didn't he
I know
do
what you mean.
Straight Outta Compton? Did he do that one?
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
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 Did he really do? I love Straight Outta Compton,
I think so.
and I fucking hate Fast 8. I think it's terrible.
F Gary Gray, I think it, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Straight Outta Compton and Laura Biden Citizen.
How the fuck did he make those and then make the slop that's 8? I think 8 is terrible.
He also
Yeah,
made.
8 is
Well,
really
he
awful.
did also make Men in Black International,
Oh wow.
True Kino. True Kino.
and
Great.
he did make the remake of The Italian Job. So
Yeah, I mean, look, I think what we've seen is like that is a filmmaker who fucking sold out.
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
But yeah, I think once like Justin Lin started like helming it, it was like okay, now you've got something there. But then I
Yeah.
think after Lin left after 6, then I think Vin Diesel became the guy. who was just like,
The spearhead producer. Yeah.
because like even 9 is directed by Justin Lin, but doesn't feel directed by Justin Lin
yeah,
because that's all just Vin Diesel just being like,
yeah.
let's do that.
It definitely feels like there's too much ego
Oh, yeah.
regarding regarding
Well,
that.
they
that
fell
set.
out before 10, didn't they? And then
Yeah.
Lin had to leave. Yeah.
I think it's well known of the franchise. I don't know about you, but I would say but definitely for me, and I would assume probably the wide majority would say the franchise peaked with 5, and it's pretty much just been going down the hill ever since.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like with Justin Lin, like you said, like he honed what it was about. Like Ryan was talking about, it's about the family and stuff. Before that, it had that. It did have the family vibe, but it was actually far more focused on the funny side of the over testosterone of men. Because 1 is there, but it takes it seriously, and I think it's really endearing, the first one, because it has that sort of like the testosterone fancy of driving fast cars and stuff like that. It's a very basic film, but it checks all the boxes, I think. Second one, it leans into it so much to the point where it's like it becomes like ludicrous, really. No pun intended.
Very nice.
Thank you very much. It was a pun intended. But and then 3 with Tokyo Drift has that same sort of, but it takes what 2 does, Too Fast, Too Furious, which is an unbelievably good name, and it dials it up to the point where we have a formula here that can work. Where the hell did they go wrong with 4? They went back to the serious stuff, which didn't work anymore because it doesn't have the endearing factor of being the first one.
Yeah.
It doesn't have that.
Of the first 4, the 2 with Vin Diesel are fucking boring, and the 2 without Vin Diesel are fucking great.
Yeah.
Yeah. I actually really like that. I don't think the first one's boring. I just think it has a lot of
It's just
I mean,
nothing. Like,
how
it's
can you?
just weird.
How can you
Like
hate
that.
Too Fast, Too Furious when you have Paul Walker say, "Forget about it, Kerr"?
Yeah, this is one of the all-time lines. I literally half of my personality and my dialect is based on the word "car," and then I have no idea how they managed to pull something from the ashes of 4, which I think is arguably the worst film in the entire franchise. I think it's up there. I'm not sure if it is the worst, but
if you're counting Hobbs and Shaw, that's the worst. But if not, then I think 8 is the worst.
I wasn't counting Hobbs and Shaw.
Yeah,
I bleached it from my mind until you brought it back up.
Hobbs and Shaw is unwatchable. That's probably tied with Argyle.
You realise we've watched these films, so that it does make them watchable.
But it took me a month to watch Hobbs and Shaw.
But the thing is with Hobbs and Shaw though, at least it's a spin-off. Like it's not the main.
Yeah.
So maybe I'd probably say 8. We run about Fast and Furious, something truly amazing that perhaps you might have forgot. You did say the Fast 4 was horrific, but did you forget that Vin Diesel has its own mind palace in Fast 4? when he can see how Letty got like the cars, so he flips through.
Yeah.
Maybe
He
Fast 4
remembers
is
the
actually the
crash.
real GOAT.
I'm actually thinking I was wrong the whole time. Fast 4 might be the hidden masterpiece.
Yeah, he was a superhero the whole time. Why did he not use that to like save Han in Tokyo Drift? then?
Exactly.
Like,
Yeah. Why didn't he use it to stop his bald head from looking like CGI in Fast 9?
It's just never used again.
Yeah.
Did he
The
get
thing is, I
dumber?
think they prefer to sort of like I think they kind of retcon it for in the series because they never talk about the events in it because there are no events in it. Fucking shit.
no. Well, they have her dead for like 2 of the films, don't they? And then she's alive. And then they have Han dead for 2 of the films, and then he's alive. And then they have
Jesus.
Gal Gadot dead for 4 of the films, and then she's alive. And it just keeps going.
What an awful fucking franchise.
Yeah.
The thing is, they're trying to have fun with a product that they're. I think it would all work if it was a comedy series.
Yeah.
Like these things, if they were like outwardly comedy, every line was a joke,
But
sort of comedy,
But isn't
then
it?
it would be funny.
Haven't they tried that with the last 2 and they've just been awful?
Well, I was gonna say, do you remember the scene in Fast X, Rhyd, where they go to the computer shop and Pete Davidson is the store clerk, and then they all just like take edibles, and then they just trip out for like 5 minutes. It's a whole scene, and nothing happens except like I think Ludacris's character gets like paranoid about something, and then he has a fight with his friend who I can't remember the name of. But it's just the weirdest.
This is the worst thing I've ever heard in my life. I don't even remember that. I don't remember any of that. I don't remember any of it.
Weird scene because they literally go into this computer shop and then it just hard cuts to like Pete Davidson like just doing edibles, and then they all do edibles.
I genuinely don't remember that.
You gotta rewatch Fast Sex.
No, I promise you, there are very few things I commit to never ever rewatching. This is one of them. In fact, half of the films in the franchise are one of them. In fact, there's a specific list of films I have that I'll never rewatch, and most of them consist of Fast and Furious films.
Yeah, I think pretty much all the back at like 7, 8, 9. I would never.
Yeah, that's the
rewatch.
thing with 7. I want to publicize. 7 is not a fucking good film. 7 is a mid-film at best.
Yeah.
The only reason people like it is because a guy dies.
The best bit in 7 is the double skyscraper jump.
Fast X was one of the 27 films that you saw. Are there
Oh,
any? Are there any that you didn't have that wouldn't make the top 10 that you liked?
Not really anything that we haven't said already.
Okay.
I did want to say that I do have some controversial opinions.
Ooh.
The Holdovers, I don't think it's a masterpiece. I think it's okay.
I love
No great reason. I'm just like, yeah, I can see exactly what it's doing. It's just not one of them films that I particularly have. I had fun with it, and I was glad I watched it. I had a good time with it. I understood, everything it was saying and such. It's just that it didn't connect with me with the way it connected with many people who absolutely love it.
Yeah, I think The Holdovers is a film that like it doesn't really do anything wrong, so it's kind of all dependent on how much like the emotional.
It's a
beats
vibes film.
Yeah, it is a vibes film. Yeah.
I personally think, like, don't get me wrong, I don't want, and I don't even mean that in a weird way where it has nothing going for it, so it is a vibes film. A bit like Honourable, but like I really feel like it does have a lot going for it in terms of like just its pure quality. It's just that there was nothing particularly that stood out for me to really grasp onto it emotionally. Nothing on the film itself, I just think it's fine.
Yeah.
And another I wanted to say was that I think is actually overrated is Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. But I don't think it's I don't think it's a problem with the film or anything. I just think that's me being really jaded with superhero stuff. So I was just watching it thinking, eh.
Yeah, I thought Spider-Verse was just it was all right. It was good.
Same.
I had that down at 30.
Yeah, I don't know where I had it on mine.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I actually like the cliffhanger. I think it's, I think it's interesting. I think it's interesting where it's going. I personally think it leans too much into the, the fan stuff because it actually makes it a main part of its narrative rather than the first one, which is just funny little side things. Like, referring to Spider-Man 3 in the first one where there was that little scene. That was enough for me, but this film really heavily leans into it.
Yeah.
It even does the silly bloody Spider-Man. I think it's for some reason people I think people prefer it to the first film. Not for me at all. I don't even think I think the first film eclipses it completely.
Yeah.
I think it's so badly structured, and
I
I
agree.
think
I think
it feels too like it believes it's bigger than it needs to be
Yeah.
because of how successful the first one was. It's now trying to be big franchise series thing, but the great thing about the first one was that it felt so kind of understated.
self-contained for me.
Yeah, and just like a special kind of little gem. But
Yeah.
this new one feels too big, and I just think structurally it stays in its acts for too long, and so when it moves into its next act, that act feels like a concoction of like the final act is such a weird mix of so many things happening that it
I
feels
hated
like
the final act. I hated it so much.
it feels like it builds to about 6 different conclusions.
Yeah, the thing is, I like. However, having said that, I hate the final act. I like the cliffhanger, but the cliffhanger in and of itself is too much of an abrupt ending for me because of the structure it's already placed. Which, and then we've already talked about the structure isn't very good, and I think it's because they go in knowing this is a two-parter.
Yeah.
So it's just like the film stops at its turning point, and this is specifically what, I don't mean to go all film student, but it's what we are taught not to do in script writing. Is your turning point is your halfway period, but the film's turning point is right at the end.
And as well, it sets up a much more interesting story with Gwen, and Gwen should have been the focus of it.
I agree.
Instead, it doesn't really follow that angle, which I think is a bit of a shame and a missed opportunity. But
No, I totally agree with the Gwen stuff. I think everything in that film, when it's at its best, was with Gwen.
Yes.
I agree. I absolutely loved the stuff where, the party stuff, and the conflict with, his dad and stuff.
Yeah.
Basically, I think the film's heart is what I liked the most, but it didn't show enough of it. That's what I think is what was the problem with it for me. As
well, it doesn't help when that film comes out and everyone hails it as like the best thing because it was like Letterboxd, like it was like the highest rated film on Letterboxd, wasn't it? The moment it came out.
Yes.
When you go into that and you're expecting something of that quality, and it's just kind of like it's good, but it's nowhere near that. It just kind of already sets the bar too high.
Yeah, I think it's perfectly fine though. It's not like an unwatchable mess. It's like a little bit of a mess, but it's not.
Like, I mean,
it's fine for a second film in a trilogy. It's fine.
Like I liked it, but
same.
It's it's down at 30.
It's so that's why I would say it's it's not it's an honorable mention though, and I think it's good to mention as many people loved it and stuff, and I think I think the only last one I have, because obviously I haven't seen too many, is Napoleon. And I know it's not really a polarizing film. It's just that most people just either thought it was mid or shit. So I absolutely loved the film because Ridley Scott takes the entire time taking the piss out of a pathetic little man with short man syndrome, and that is my type of film, is when you take the piss out of pathetic little men with short man syndrome. I understood why Bill didn't like it. He hated it. I don't know why. So but it's it's literally my type of film, when you take your entire 2 hours or however long and you just sit there and you take the piss out of your main character and show him as this bottom feeder, pathetic little man who can never get any satisfaction anywhere. The only thing he loves and clings on to is somebody who doesn't even give a shit about him. It's I thought it was the film is titled Napoleon, and I thought it was really apt that it took the entire time ripping into Napoleon.
Yeah.
So that's why I personally love the film. It's not quite in my top 10, but yeah.
Yeah, me and Eddie talked about that Friday.
Yeah.
Funny enough.
It's not a film with a whole lot of depth or interesting, historical scenes and shit like that. But yeah, I like the core focus on just taking the piss out of this pathetic twat.
I didn't like it, but I feel like if we do get a 3.5 hour cut, I will definitely enjoy it. May even love it. I don't know, because again, like you mentioned, the whole taking the piss out of him and just painting him as this pathetic loser was genuinely really good. It was a bit thrown off for the first 30 to an hour, because you're like, what am I watching here? But then once I click with it and realize what it's going for, it's like, oh yeah, this is at points it was hilarious. It's just like, yeah, this is a pathetic loser.
Yeah.
But I said to Eddie, like, it's, for me, it was ripped to shreds. Like, the scenes start and just end immediately, and I'm just like, what is happening here?
Yeah.
Like, it's like, I don't understand. Like, it's...
Yeah, it's weird actually to have such an industry focused on verisimilitude, and then you get a film that completely destroys the very meaning of verisimilitude.
Yeah.
And and I think it's this is one of those times when before a film even comes out and there's rumors of an extended cut and you know it's been ripped apart by the fucking editing studio squash machine. I think like me and Dylan have said before, Ridley Scott is like the king of interesting mid. So like he constantly creates mid films that are just actually really interesting. Like you're gonna have a mid time watching them, but it's actually gonna have a point. I would rather watch 100 mid interesting Ridley Scott films than 10 Fast and Furious wank films.
I totally agree, because like obviously he is a great filmmaker, and you know, probably regarded as, you know, one of the best we've had in. I mean, if you make Alien and Blade Runner back to back, I mean, he could have retired there and then. I mean, but yeah, like you said, like I don't really love Prometheus or Alien Covenant, but they are really fucking interesting. Like,
like we recently watched them over Dylan's, and it's just like, yeah, these are mid, but actually it's got really good messaging here. It comes to a point where it's like I actually said it while we were watching it. It's just like Ridley Scott is an amazing director when he can be bothered. It's just like some things are developed really well, and then sometimes he'll have a character called Tex and wears a cowboy hat. And sometimes he'll have a character that's just Idris Elba playing a fucking whatever what are they called?
Accordion.
Yeah, and he just plays one of them. He has no personality whatsoever, and it's because Ridley Scott is far more interested in his messaging, I think, and what he's trying to say than simple things such as what does somebody eat for breakfast or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's the stuff that makes a film that he cannot be bothered with, but it's stuff that makes a film interesting that he can be bothered with.
Yeah. Well, as I said, like The Last Duel was great. I thought The Last Duel was great.
I still need to see that.
I think The Last Duel is like I loved it, and I think it's actually interesting what he said after it, because he was just like, I hate all these teens and these TikTokers with no attention spans who don't want to watch my films. You can tell he just wants to be like, you know, go into straight boom. I mean, basically he does go into straight boomer mode, but he's right. It's just attention spans that made the film like fail at the box office, which sucks because I think it's amazing. But I think that was didn't that come out the same year as House of Gucci?
Yeah, I think it did.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah, and I think they put all the marketing focus on House of Gucci rather than, which was I thought was fucking shit.
Yes.
Rather than Last Duel, which I thought was really, really good. But I think Last Duel was really hampered because like it was constantly delayed, which is why it didn't get the marketing focus. But whatever.
And that's intense.
Okay, what I could do is I could do my 10, 9, 8, 7 because my top 6 to 1 is basically on the same level. I love them all basically equally.
Yeah. Okay.
My 10 is Asteroid City.
Nice.
9, John Wick. 8, Guardians of the Galaxy 3. 7, Godzilla -1. Loved all those. 6, and I hope I'm not offending anybody here, but 6 to 1 is very like close. Okay. So if you think something, you know, like it's like why is that? You know, but yeah, they all basically they can change at any moment. But 6 is the Fablemans. But Fablemans could easily be 1.
Are you counting the by UK release?
Yes. Sorry.
I see.
Yeah, because like I want to count them by the release of when it was possible for me to watch them, because like I'm not in America, sort of thing.
That's fair.
Yeah.
I still haven't seen it.
You're gonna have an amazing time with it.
Amazing.
It is right up your alley. It's it's at the same time as being like a Steven Spielberg biopic almost. It almost, but it also has something that because biopics that they have the trouble of not like relating to anybody
Yeah.
because like biopics, like they're about these bloody great people or whatever the fuck. This has so much heart. It's might be the Steven Spielberg film I think has the most heart out of anything he's done.
Yeah, I would agree.
Besides maybe like the remake of West Side Story, which I think is amazing. But it has so much heart to it, and it has Seth Rogen doing a good performance, which is something to see by itself. But no, this is the kind of vibes film that actually I feel like I can relate to. Like this is something that is my favorite scene in the film is when Steven Spielberg is a little boy, whatever. He puts like he does like a reenactment war film. Do you remember that scene?
Yeah.
And he puts like the camera on like a skateboard or whatever, and he's pushing it through like the dirt or whatever, and it's just incredible. It's one of the best scenes I've seen from films in 2023, 2022, whatever. But yeah, absolutely love The Fabelmans. There's just so much to it. I actually remember saying to you that, like, and it's more because Michelle Williams is an amazing actress, but I said to you, it's not one of my favorite Michelle Williams actress performances. Even though, but that's more because she's amazing, and I think she's like my favorite is in Manchester by the Sea.
Yeah.
Sort of thing. So, but yeah, so much going for it. I think you'll have a great time, and the Lynchian Meister himself does an amazing performance in the film. He's so brilliant. It's just these are the kind of cameos that are really important for a film.
Yeah.
5 is Tar.
Nice.
And yeah, I love Tar. Tar reminded me very much of Whiplash. Like you could tell the filmmakers were very clued in on Whiplash before watching the film. And that style of film is right up there for me. I love dickheads falling apart. Like for example, like Napoleon. That's why I love that so much. I love films about absolute pricks losing everything they had because of who they are as people. It relates to me specifically. But yeah, it's love the film. 4 Oppenheimer for reasons we know. It's been talked about to death. 3 Babylon. I've put Babylon because the UK released it. Came out like right at the start of January. I think. We've already talked about Babylon a bunch. Yeah, I think it's absolutely amazing. I like to wind Eddie up by calling it a Singing in the Rain remake. But yeah, it's for me, it's one of those films where you look at the runtime and you think, Christ, that's a long film, and then you watch the film and you think, where did the time go? Like it's if a film can do that, I think it is not just captured your imagination, but it's actually done well at what it's doing. Absolutely.
Babylon is like when I watch Babylon, every scene I think like this is the best thing Chazelle's ever done, and then the next scene happens. And no, that is like it's a film that just builds and builds upon itself.
It's my favorite Margot Robbie performance.
Yeah, I think I'd agree.
Go on, Ryan. That's what to say. Go on.
Genuinely,
controversial.
No, it's not controversial, but it may be just because of how small it is. I genuinely think Asteroid City is.
Oh, okay, yeah. That's a good shout. That's a good
shout. Yeah. That's not even something I can. Yeah,
I wouldn't have considered that just because it's like small scene, but like I think you're probably right actually.
But like for me with Babylon, I don't think there's anything I don't like about it.
No,
it's just like it's. I think for me, it's like one of those rewatchable films, not in terms of like entertainment, but actually things I'll take from it.
Yeah.
Both in entertainment and things I'll take from it, but like it's it has so much going on in almost every scene that I don't think there's a single scene where it's about something. There's always something and something else that the scene is about. It's every scene tells a story by itself. And I think it's incredibly difficult to do that unless you are like a top tier filmmaker. And unfortunately, I don't think Chazelle's going to get the same kind of funding for his next film. For future, which really fucking sucks because he's the type of guy that deserves the funding.
Yeah, it's a shame.
No, like that was the thing. Like specifically on the rewatch that I had was like, especially when like as the ending was happening and then as the film ended, like it really had an impact on me for me to notice like, oh yeah, how important like filmmaking and films are for me, and it became like really existential. It's like like where do we sit as like, are we using these films as like a capsule for us for us to live on in some way, or is that all we have, like art for expressing ourselves for to live on to future generations? But yeah, like it became very existential.
Yeah, it's a really beautiful film. It's something I imagine when I rewatch it. Like I can see myself adding it to like my favorites list because like I there's not a thing I don't like about it. In fact, I love pretty much everything about it. But yeah, it's I'm looking forward to rewatching it actually. Brilliant film. Uh, a second is Killers of the Flower Moon.
Nice.
I thought Killers of the Flower Moon was unbelievably good.
Yeah.
I also have the advantage of not being part of the Osage culture, so the more intricate sort of things about it that the Osage feel maybe they should have been told differently or more focused on and stuff. I don't have that sort of feelings because I'm not like emotionally linked to that thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, so from an outsider's perspective, I absolutely loved it. I think the ending is the type of ending I want in every film I bloody watch.
Yeah.
Because I love, like, again, it's about a pathetic little man doing shitty things and then getting his comeuppance. I love those types of films, or just protagonists in general. I thought Lily Gladstone was amazing, and I'm really upset that she didn't get, the yada yada bollocks, but whatever. Award ceremonies are just bollocks. Who cares? But in my eyes, she is a winner. So I'm looking forward to whatever she does in the future, and I hope that Martin Scorsese doesn't die anytime soon, because like the fact that we're able to watch Martin Scorsese films is incredible. Like we're able to watch them at the cinema, and there's a day that's not going to happen, and that day is coming soon. That's not a threat.
Scorsese, watch out.
But yeah, no, it's incredible. Like the film feels so delicate in its pacing, in its messaging. Like, well, actually, no, its messaging is very straightforward, but in its structure, in the characters, like the actors' performances for the characters, like that might be my favorite Robert De Niro supporting role. That I've seen him in. I thought he was brilliant in the film. Absolutely love it. But yeah, again, like it's something that I love so much that like it had to be in my top 3. So like these top 6 are like very much interchangeable, but I would say this and my number 1 were not interchangeable in terms of like, because these two are my favorites. My favorite was Past Lives.
Yeah, nice.
Past Lives. Okay.
Yeah, I absolutely loved Past Lives. I just meant that I felt Killers of the Flower Moon was quite delicate, even though it's a lot of what it's telling isn't delicate. Here, I felt it was like it's a completely delicate film. I think in terms of looking back on what we could have had is fucking pointless because of what we have now. Yeah. If you spend your whole life trying to chase what you had, you're actually not going to have anything at all.
Yeah.
You're going to try, and even if you get that thing that you've been chasing back your whole life, do you really want it?
Yeah.
It's I really like that the messaging of it, and I loved how simple it was, because like there's not like it actually like juggles like locations, but in terms of the actual what it's doing, like it's actually a very simple film. It's like usually when you have films that juggle many locations, it's quite a complicated film. This juggles locations whilst being very, very simple. So it felt so authentic. It felt so real. Even the Skype sounds just like ugh. Like them foul Skype sounds, and it's just like it really, really emotionally connected with me. So, and something that emotionally connects with me like that is always going to be something that's I'm going to look at more fondly than something that I really, really enjoy, but I don't necessarily emotionally connect to in the same way. So that's why Past Lives is my favorite of the year. Any comments?
I love Past Lives. I think it's a wonderful film. About like I love that it's just about kind of growing and evolving,
Yeah.
and how a person evolves without someone and with someone, and how that generates a what if of
Mm.
what if you were the person I
Mm.
evolved alongside, or
Yeah.
do
And the
I
what
do
if
I
is
fall
just such an
dependent?
endlessly
Yeah,
self-destructive question, really.
yeah. And I mean that cut at the end of the two of them as he's about to get in the taxi to them as kids going off like different directions is
Mm.
like that was a gut punch of a cut.
Mm.
I think that's just such a beautiful, lovely, touching film about just about living really, and about
Yeah.
like you know memory and where memory takes your minds to what could how that memory could have been shaped by how events could have gone different ways.
Yeah, it's like it's another one of those like sort of vibes films that you either
Yeah,
emotionally relate to or you emotionally don't. Because like
yeah,
I can absolutely see how somebody could watch it and think, yeah, it's all right.
yeah, yeah,
Because but I can also absolutely see how how it can be emotionally connected to because I'm in that position myself. It's
yeah,
a little bit like the Holdovers, except like I'm on the other end of it. Like I
Mm.
can specifically like it really props up a film when you can like see yourself in characters or memories or events and emotionally resonate with what's going on. I just think it's
yeah,
really lovely.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
Brian.
I didn't like it.
Did you not?
So, okay, right. What I will mention before I explain myself is I did love its touch when it played around with like diaspora. So like there was a moment where I'm sure she mentions like, oh, he feels too Korean.
Yeah,
It was almost as like is like the identity in her nationality or where she's from like lost in some way because she's moved, or is there like a blend of different cultures that I did like that element to it, because again like it was just an interesting line to me when she was just like, oh, he feels too Korean, and it's almost just like her entire makeup or like nationhood is just completely changed or gone from what she previously had. um but yeah, I don't think it was anything major I disliked about it. Yeah, I just didn't emotionally connect with it. Like
yeah. Fair enough.
it just did nothing for me. Which, but
Yeah,
I think it mainly because like Wong Kar Wai is my favorite filmmaker ever,
mm,
and there's a lot of you know his themes around life and
yeah,
like the meaning of life and things like on with a similar like type of feel to
hmm
past lives that I just didn't emotionally connect with it. So, and I think
yeah,
that's probably why. Um, yeah, but
yeah,
not really much else.
Mm.
It wasn't really one that I had like a lot to say on. It was more of just like
yeah,
I just did
yeah,
nothing to.
yeah. Fair enough.
I was kind
Mm.
of disappointed, but because I was
Mm,
expecting to love it, but yeah,
mm,
it just didn't really do it.
yeah,
Mm.
fair enough.
Yeah, I think it's I think what the film does rely on heavily is emotional resonance.
Yeah,
Because like if you're doing a simple film, then there has to be something emotionally to connect to
Yeah,
with it. Like I know like that actually happens. Like I mean a relevant comparison, like I suppose, is the Holdovers.
mm,
But like
yeah,
or like I remember watching The Father and like specifically connecting to it because like Anthony Hopkins is playing a guy who's like losing his memory and shit like that, and it becomes extremely repetitive and yada yada. And but I deal with that on a daily basis because like I care for my mum, and it's the same sort of thing. So I directly sort of felt that. And I think there's so many films like that can actually like at the like you can flip a coin and it get and you can feel like emotionally connected with it or not. It's
yeah,
very much an experience
yeah.
sort of film.
yeah.
Mm.
But yeah, that's my top 10.
It's
Nice,
pretty good.
Yeah,
nice.
the most relevant top 10 to be honest. But yeah,
I
like
said
yeah,
you mentioned the Father.
it,
I seen the Father the other day actually for the first time. It's
what
pretty
you
great.
think?
It was great. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
You mentioned like emotionally affected, like because I think it's such a like disease where I've often like looked on and it's like, yeah, fuck me, that must be absolutely horrendous. Like not only for the actual person, even though if they're aware of it or not, but it's just more of the devastation that it causes around. Like you just see the family or people decay, um, as well as obviously the individual person like decaying, but the actual family bond and the actual like relationships between people, it just destroys them as well.
Yeah,
And I
like
just
I've
think
seen some criticism in terms of like some of the scenes are unintentionally comical, but that probably is coming from a place where they actually can't emotionally relate to it. Like I've been in those like scenes that would be seen as generally comical, and they definitely can be. But if you're in that situation, it's not comical
yeah,
in the slightest sort of thing, because that happens. It's what happens with life.
yeah,
If it goes down that way, and I think it like how simple it is and how specifically set orientated it is really serves to the film's benefit, because that is what it's like being trapped inside of a mind where you're losing your memories. So the
yeah,
only sort of perception you have is where you are, because you have nothing left inside.
yeah,
So it's like the hollow set reflects the mind inside, where it deteriorates along with what's going on, to the point where, you know, you want to cry, you want to do nothing but cry. And because, I deal with someone like that who goes through that on a daily basis, like it's specifically something that I really enjoyed. I actually remember that. I know it like came out in like 2020 or something, but actually it didn't get its full release until like a full year later
yeah,
or something, which is like, I think that was like another COVID issue, which is,
Yeah.
so a lot of my like sort of top tens would be like that, where
Yeah.
like they'll actually
Yeah.
have films from like the previous year.
Yeah.
But I think that's about. I think films have basically caught up by now. I don't think there's still like, I don't know of any COVID films that are still yet to be released.
um,
No, I can't think of any.
Yeah, I think the timeline's basically caught up now, where they've all
Yeah.
basically come out.
maybe there was one that come out this year because I remember there was one that was stuck in for like 4 years or 5.
Hmm.
Mm.
Oh, no, Borderlands,
Oh, was that been
COVID,
delayed
yeah,
that long?
yeah, that was a
Oh.
COVID film.
I'm not looking forward to it though. I'm not watching it. Fuck that shit.
Looks horrific.
I've seen some of the clip. Oh, it looks horrid.
Oh, it looks
Oh, the
awful.
Christ.
the Dev Patel one as well. That was
The Monkey
good,
Man.
wasn't it? Yeah, yeah.
Oh, was
'cause
it?
he was talking about how difficult that was to
No,
make.
I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
Yeah, I think he was saying how stressful it was on set because of COVID regulations.
Mm. I don't know. I feel like it's gonna be like. I feel like it's gonna be a bop though. So I'm looking
really
forward to it.
excited for that,
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
excited for that. Dev Patel has always had the sauce.
Yeah. I think it's interesting that Dev Patel hasn't seemed to me like someone who's ever sort of sold out. If he's been in a film that's made a lot of money, it's just because it's made a lot of money rather than him making bag
Yeah.
sort of thing. Like he seems to be in a lot of really actual quality, even artistic ventures that seem to put his heart and soul into.
Did you?
For me, the most poignant example is The Green Knight, which I absolutely loved.
I
Still
really
haven't,
want to see.
still haven't seen that yet, but
Oh, it's so good.
it is
'Cause I got-
David Lowery, right?
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was. Yeah.
Yeah.
I got dissuaded by that because there was so much hype and the reviews came out and they weren't quite as good as I think everyone expected. So I got a bit like, yeah.
I think you'll love it. I think
But,
you'll
yeah,
love it.
I think I would as well.
The main
Yeah.
reason why I didn't watch it was because it didn't get a theater release. Didn't release in cinemas.
No, it was on
So-
straight to Prime or something, wasn't
Yeah,
it?
Yeah.
straight to.
And-
I remember watching it on Prime. Yeah.
Instantly, it just threw me off because I was so excited for it. But
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my top 10. I don't know who wants to take the plunge next. I actually have a feeling that our top 10s. I don't think they're going to be widely different, but at the same time, I could easily see them being very different because 2023 has been a good year.
It's been a very good year.
yeah, I
Yeah.
didn't say much on yours because I wanna because we spoke a little bit about it on Friday with Eddie. I spoke with Eddie in the car, but
Yeah.
my 1 and 3, like I want to kind of pair together because there was I feel they're very similar specifically in terms of their ending and what they mean.
You know what? You've just volunteered yourself.
Oh,
You're the next top 10.
Okay.
Or do you want to end on that? What would you rather do?
Yeah, I think that discussion could be interesting. So yeah, probably because that could probably lead into something else.
Yeah,
Okay.
actually, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, Eddie, or you will go second, or else.
Top 10. My 10th favorite film was Asteroid City.
Let's go.
Let's go.
Let's go. Yeah, after City banged.
Yeah, the only thing I wanted to say on Asteroid City was just that I find the reaction to it strange because people kind of seem to say that it's Wes Anderson being too Wes Anderson, which I don't really get because I feel like it's if you like Wes Anderson's style, there's everything there, but also he's throwing in very interesting ideas of loneliness and grief and isolation, and it's
Yeah.
probably the best film about COVID that I can think of. Just being stuck in a permanent state for so long with
I think the trouble is that it hit a TikTok audience as well.
Yeah.
that's very true.
I don't know
Yeah.
how, but somehow with the release of the film, it actually became like really big on TikTok, but not in a good way. And like so, when it hits an unintended audience, not in a good way, it can really bring things down. A bit like The Green Knight.
Yeah, I think that's true. Yeah, because I think Wes Anderson has that. Because there was that whole trend, wasn't there, on TikTok of people
Oh
like
my word.
Wes Andersonifying things, and it was just felt like, what are you doing?
That's what I
Yeah.
found really weird about it though, is because like a lot of the criticisms it had, and I'm just like, for me personally, I think it was probably the one I emotionally engaged with out of any of his
Yeah,
things. And
yeah,
again,
I agree.
I love any sort of existentialism, and it had plenty. So
Yeah,
I'm just like I loved it. I did. I thought
yeah.
I thought it was great.
Yeah,
But
because Wes Anderson is a director for me who I am quite hit or miss with. Because like The French Dispatch nearly put me to sleep. I thought did nothing for me. I wasn't
Yeah,
interested in the stories.
I agree.
I did enjoy it. I think his first part was great, the first story, but then I just think it went downhill from there.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. That is actually the thing I would say for every Wes Anderson film, because all of his films for me rely on the heart and soul of the characters and what the message and what Wes Anderson is specifically trying to say. Because I know it's either Dylan or Alfie or both that absolutely loves The French Dispatch. So I think it's not even like we're saying like French Dispatch is. I genuinely think all of his films, like, you either emotionally connect to it or you don't. I think the only one maybe that you don't because it's so wild maybe is the Grand Budapest Hotel.
Yeah,
Because like that one is just so wild. I don't know how you wouldn't love it. It's just like it's amazing. Like you even get something more for like more of a wider casual audience, like what's the Fox one?
Fantastic Mr. Fox.
Fantastic Mr. Fox, I actually think is very much for like a casual audience can easily enjoy that, but it has so much heart and soul to it as well. Like, I think you might be surprised, but the most I connected to a Wes Anderson film in terms of specifically relating was the Darjeeling Limited. Absolutely loved it.
Yeah, that's one that didn't click for me, but
I remember you saying your review, which I really liked, because like you even said like, and I remember thinking, I think that's the difference is that I do because there's three brothers, I have two brothers. And I specifically related to it on an emotional level, and it showed me so much about what the competition between brothers, the loss of connection, the single phrase, would we even be friends if we weren't related? Or whatever it is, or if we weren't connected by blood, whatever the phrase was. But it's an amazing line of dialogue, and I just I think that's very common for Wes Anderson films is like is the emotional connection that they have to their audience.
100%. I think that's always been why I'm quite hit or miss with him, because
same
because his films are so dry and direct and like wooden. I think that unless I feel heart and charm behind it, I don't tend to connect to it. Whereas like I felt with Asteroid City, because there was so much to its ideas of loneliness and kind of like just people contemplating their own place in the world when they experience a world-changing event, I think was so interesting, and also what it had to say about art as a whole and art's purpose amongst that, I think is just very interesting. And I loved it a lot, and I was surprised that it was one that a lot of people didn't quite give
The way,
enough
yeah,
to
the way he's able to inject humor into that scenario as well is really
Yeah.
good. Like, Jeff
Yeah.
Goldblum being the bloody alien. It's
Yeah.
just these things are inherently just funny.
Yeah.
For me, it's such a well-rounded film,
Yeah.
and it feels like something that should be so disconnected because it's about the disconnection. The
Yeah.
a COVID sort of style film. But
Yeah.
there's so much to connect it all together, and yeah.
Yeah.
That's a banger.
The alien just seemed like a chill little guy. Just you know?
Yeah, he was just vibing.
Beast. Yeah.
Yeah. He was the star of the show.
Genius casting, really.
Yeah.
Number 9 on my list is May December.
Yeah, I've seen it.
Number 8 is Monster.
Okay.
And then number 7, Oppenheimer.
Oh, low.
Ooh,
That's pretty.
I think we both expected. Ooh.
Yeah, that's
It's
pretty low.
low, but just because it's a great year, and
Yeah.
like it's kind of like you were saying with 6 and 1, very kind of close.
Yeah, you can swap these sort of things around. Yeah.
I think my 8, well, my 7 to 1 are all very close. It could become 8 because the more I think about Monster, the more I think it's probably a 5-star. But I'm
Yeah.
at 4.5 for now, so it's kind of like I probably need to rewatch it.
I don't want to cut you off, but that's the same with me. Like when I mentioned pairing my 1 and 3, like
Yeah.
my number 2, my 3 could be 2.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
It's just it's just
Yeah.
interchangeable. It's always I don't really like ranking things, but
Yeah. The thing is, though, it's really good that we have this problem that they're interchangeable in terms of because it means it's a good year.
no, yeah,
It means
Well,
there's
yeah.
so many amazing films.
Yeah, because that's the thing with Oppenheimer. Like, I've got it 7, but like it's only because the films above it I connected to more emotionally, and that's the only difference. Like, if I was ranking it objectively, Oppenheimer would be higher. And like I think it's Nolan's best. I think it's a stunning piece of film, but it's just everything above it. I just got more emotion out of.
You're getting beaten up.
Flower Moon.
Oh, okay, you're definitely getting beaten up.
yeah, he's trying to be edgy.
He's trying to be one of those pretentious different people. Ugh.
I'm still giving it 5 stars. I've still given it 5
Don't
stars.
I don't know. I don't care at this point. I don't even give you a reason, and you can kill yourself. Fuck off and die.
Number 5, Anatomy of a Fool.
Oh,
Yeah, I think
Wait,
best script of the year. I think just fascinating from front to back.
Anatomy of a Fall isn't on my list for some reason.
No.
I think I might have forgotten to put Anatomy of a Fall on my list. Okay, so yeah, I've forgotten to put Anatomy of a Fall on my list. So Anatomy of a Fall would actually be probably in my top 5. So I've got a top 11.
Okay.
Okay, top
I
11.
forgot to put, yeah, because Anatomy of a Fall I thought was like incredible.
Yeah, Anatomy of a Fool I thought amazing, probably the best script of the year. And yeah, just good shit in it, like good shit.
Yeah, it was a banger.
Yeah.
It was a banger.
Yeah.
Just so
I can't believe I forgot to put it on my list. I'm such a fucking idiot. But yeah, it would definitely be in top like 5 area. I think I'd put Anatomy of a Fall alongside like Killers of the Flower Moon.
Yeah.
It'd probably make my top 3 to be honest with you.
Yeah. And then number 4, All of Us Strangers,
Oh, I've not seen it.
which is
Okay.
probably the saddest film of the year. One of the saddest
Wow.
films I've ever seen.
Do you want to go into it a little bit more detail for those of us who haven't seen it?
Yeah, I think it's a film that keeps catching you by surprise the longer it goes on, and I think it starts off very kind of quiet and atmospheric, and then it just builds and builds and builds, but still very subtly.
Yeah.
And when you really realize everything that's happening, it's just so depressing and just so moving, but it feels so honest with those emotions that it really works. And I think Andrew Scott's performance is probably my favorite of the whole year. But there's like 4 performances there which are all just astounding. I know me and Ryan were talking the other day, and you said you love Jamie Bell's performance.
Oh, I literally think Jamie Bell's performance is one of my favorite like period of the year. It's legit unbelievable. But like all four of them, like Claire Foy as well. Like I think all 4 of them in that film, like you could easily say, like I wouldn't argue if someone was like, oh, I have Andrew Scott as my favourite performance of the year. I have Paul Mescal as my favourite. But like they're just so interchangeable. But no, it's amazing.
Yeah.
I think my favourite Jamie Bell performance is probably in Jumper. Don't know if you've ever seen that.
Fantastic Four as well, very good.
No. Jumper clears.
Jumper clears. Jumper.
Jumper clears.
All of us strangers to Jumper. What?
Yeah. Hello. They're both in the same category. Jumper is a masterpiece. Maybe we need to get him round for the next Jumpathon.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever seen it.
Oh, he's not seen it. Let's go. He's in for a leather jacket ride. Let's go.
It's Jumptastic. What a film. I love Jumper. But yeah.
What about number 4?
Hang on. Yeah, that was number 4. Number 3, Past Lives. I'll go into more detail as we discussed, but loved Past Lives. Number 2 is The Holdovers. I adored The Holdovers. I think because I'm a big sucker for like very kind of happy-go-lucky kind of stories, things that feel breezy, things that feel, like you said, vibey, but like when that does so with a way where all the emotions hit, I think that's just, that to me is like my kind of favorite thing to digest, and I just found it so heartwarming, so lovely, and I'm a sucker for Christmas. I can see myself watching it every Christmas, and it's one that just swept me up in its kind of simplicity, but how well that simplicity is executed, because it feels like it's doing so much more than it is or it needs to, but it's doing so just through the amount of heart it has. And I think the performances of Paul Giamatti, Dominic Sessa, and Divine Joy Randolph are just so lovely. Yeah.
Yeah, they to be honest, they're like intoxicating in the film with their like with how endearing they are. It's not for me. It's not really a film you can sit there and like we're talking about it in terms of like the feeling of it. Like it's not the way we would sit in the same way we'd sit here and talk about Oppenheimer, but we're not talking about Oppenheimer because like that's been talked to death. So
exactly, and that's why like I've got Oppenheimer at 7 and because I'm at 6, simply down to the fact that like the whole
sometimes it's feel,
Lives and All of Us Strangers, all those films made me cry, like they've made me sob. But
pussy.
but I can't say that I cried at Killers of the Flower Moon or Oppenheimer as much as I love them, so it's just literally down to that. But my number 1 of the year is The Taste of Things. The Taste of Things it's about like this chef, and he is in love with his own private chef who like makes food for him, and it's just it's about them kind of connecting through food, and it's just depicting food and the idea of kind of acts of service as a love language, and just such a beautiful film about devoting like what you can offer in life to a person, and devoting your every kind of minute to a person. And like I said before, I think it's just one of the most touching like representations of the idea of love as a concept I've ever seen in film. And it just blew me away, swept me off my feet. Had a lovely time.
It sounds right up my alley, like because like
lovely film.
I don't want to compare them because like it sounds like they're about different things, but like when I looked at it and when you explained it, it sounds a little bit like Phantom Thread. I don't know if you've seen it.
I haven't seen Phantom Thread yet.
Phantom Thread is it's about the idea of just loving someone completely and taking care of them, but it's more actually in a sort of not a cynical way, but certainly almost narratively a sinister way. But it's PTA at his absolute best. He's it sounds like. Have you seen Phantom Thread, Ryan, or am I beating a dead horse here?
I have seen Phantom Thread. It's amazing.
Yeah. So like, does that comparison make sense to you?
Yeah. No, I know what you mean.
Yeah. Because like Yeah, it's right up my alley. So yeah, I'm gonna get onto that. It sounds English speaking, is it?
It's French.
It's French.
Oh, even better.
Yeah.
I thought it might be English speaking, and I was just like, no, I'm not interested in watching it.
No, they're French, so it makes
You know,
sense.
it's just clicked
You
with
got-
me while you said Jean now.
You get to
Yes.
you get to you get you get to really show off your Kino taste, you know.
Yes. Yes. A film from France.
Yeah. Speaking of Kino, like you mentioned, Wong Kar-wai being your favorite filmmaker ever. Mine is is Kurosawa for
That's-
similar things, for similar reasons. Like you mentioned, the way they depict existentialism and such like that. But I remember really falling in love with Kurosawa's work because of the way he depicts society and culture, and not necessarily being a part of it, but wanting to contribute and stuff like that. And I live in the shithole of Tonopandi, so it's sometimes I remember watching some of my first Kurosawa films. I just immediately connected, and he's just my favorite filmmaker. And
Number 10 was Monster.
Nice.
Yeah, I've not seen it. Really want to watch it.
Yeah. Number 9 was The Holdovers.
Nice.
Yeah, sorry. Could we get a little description of Monster for those who haven't seen it, such as what?
Essentially, you get 3 different tellings of POVs from the same story, and then obviously within the first one, you come to realize that what is it? There's a fire in there, and
Yeah.
and isn't the mother is who we focus on for the first part of the scene, and then she goes to the school where apparently her son's been bullying, and the teachers around feel very odd and feel very how can we say it, confrontational.
Yeah.
In a way.
Cold.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, these are a bunch of cunts. And then you go into the second POV, which is the teacher, Mr. Hori, and then within the first or second scene, you're like, oh, I get where we're going with this, and yeah, and it goes into the third one, and it deals a lot with gender identity and sexuality, things at a very young age, which certain people have to obviously deal with. And then, but the thing I loved about the third part is there's just such a beautiful sense of childhood innocence.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was great.
To be honest, I got so lost in that it actually made me want to, if I did have my nephew over, I'd probably watch that tonight. But instead, we're watching the Kino Pokemon 2000 tonight. Yeah,
I've also... I think you'd really like Rhyd because it's just from a screenwriter's kind of mind, it must
because as soon as you said 3 people's perspectives, I was thinking, oh, Rashomon, and any sort of anybody who utilizes that style from Rashomon, I'm like, oh, what can they do with it? And it sounds like they're doing some really, really good, tackling some tough topics, and I love films that do that.
Yeah. It's a thing as well. It's obviously it's obviously a delicate subject, and it gets even more delicate if you're doing it with children. And I think it's just so perfectly well handled. And again, it's these are still kids, and I mean obviously they're dealing with going into adulthood and dealing with those adulthood problems. But again, like I said, there's just so much of the childhood innocence there. Specifically the ending. I thought it was unbelievable. It was so good. Yeah, that's all we have to say about Monster. You should check it out, Rhyd. Check it out. Yeah. So 9 was The Holdovers. 8 was Perfect Days.
Perfect Days. What's that?
Nice.
So it's literally just a day in the life, constant day by day. I think it's over 2-3 weeks, right? Of a guy who cleans toilets in Japan.
All right. I don't think I've heard of it. Nice.
And yeah, it's again, it was just again, it's so relatable, because you're just dealing with everyday life, and when you're coming from someone obviously who's in a working class area, working class family, it's it's highly relatable. So it's and there's just so much that encapsulates just life. And yeah, great soundtrack, and
amazing soundtrack.
Yeah, I haven't really got what to say about it, to be honest. But yeah, I mean, it was just great. Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually love it when you get these like films that you just love for like almost inexplicable reasons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That,
Yeah.
because that's just like a pure feeling, and I love that feeling.
Well, that was the thing. Like, there's such a for the first like 45 minutes. There's such a feel like for like an ASMR type feel where you're getting enjoyment out of mundane things but then there was I don't know whether you remember, Eddie, but there's a moment where so we get this feeling like obviously this guy he's cleaning toilets and this is what he does, but then he still manages to find the beauty in life. And
Mm.
there's a moment where it's with his niece, right?
Oh yeah. Oh, what when they're
So
on the
she
bike?
comes to his job. Like she's ran
Yeah.
away from home. So she's ran away from home and she's come to work with him and stay with him. And she gives him a look when he's cleaning toilets as like, oh, like is he happy about himself? And then he comes out and smiles, and then
Yeah.
it's just so beautiful. Like it,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
What I wanted to
Yeah.
We sound like the most pretentious fans on the planet.
was number 8. All of Us Strangers is number 7.
It's nice.
For many of the reasons pretty much Eddie said. Just, so emotional, flooded with unbelievable performances. I did want to mention, I said to you, Eddie, on Friday, there's a scene or a sequence in it which is, if you had to name the most horrifying scenes of the year,
Mm.
there would probably somehow be a scene from All of Us Strangers in, because that was a scene straight from a horror film. It was fucking terrifying.
Yeah.
So for you, that'd be one for you to look out for there, Rhyd.
Yeah,
Godzilla -1 is 6.
it bangs.
Yeah, it's great. Like, I'm not somebody who's familiar with many of the Godzilla like franchise. I've not seen the
Same.
original.
Me neither.
I love the filmmaking of the 2014, but the actual idea of the film I just don't understand, because it just especially when I watch something like Godzilla -1, it becomes really kind of misguided in my opinion, because you got this it becomes like an outside thing where obviously you got this thing that's meant to represent the new age and atomic bombs, and then it's dealing with like America and like coming to save the American people. It just becomes a bit
Yeah,
it just
it's just
becomes,
like it's just America is just problematic in general. It's like
yeah,
this allegory murdered many Japanese people. Oh, let's make it a good guy.
yeah,
It's like them doubling down on the atomic bomb.
yeah.
Like that's what it's so funny.
I mean, and yeah, like obviously the other Godzilla stuff has been the less serious, and then obviously watching Godzilla -1, I now realize why it's such a cherished property, because
Yeah, I was in the exact same position because I didn't really get Godzilla, didn't know the meaning, but thankfully I went with somebody, like Jake to the cinema who knows about what Godzilla actually means, and in multiple different like cultures, what it means for America, the modern day films and such. So I had that, at the side when ready to learn from, but thankfully the film told me everything I needed to know.
Yeah.
Like Godzilla -1 is just full of like heart and soul at the same time, and it somehow it doesn't make what you're watching feel like something like it feels like what Godzilla should be,
yeah,
because like I felt like I had never seen an original, but it felt like an authentic experience,
Yeah.
rather than something like, oh, this feels like a copy, this feels like a watered down product.
Yeah.
It felt like the Godzilla, like it's the best Godzilla film I've seen, and I doubt I'll see a better one
yeah.
of the ones that exist.
Shin Godzilla, I'm gonna get round to, because apparently that's another one that's really great as well.
Yeah, it is. It's really good.
But yeah, I just found it really fitting as well that Godzilla -1 came out, or I seen it a few months after Oppenheimer, because then you got Oppenheimer that's so self-critical of like American exceptionalism, and then you got Godzilla that's so very critical of Japanese imperialism, and I just felt like there was a really nice, it'd be a really nice like companion piece, I think. whichever way you want to put it, but I feel like those two go really well together.
I mean, yeah,
Um,
it's. I mean, yeah. To be honest, I mean, I want to see Oppenheimer versus Godzilla in a big fight. I think that would be fucking epic.
Big killing.
the true David and Goliath story.
Yeah, it's an Oppenheimer prequel.
Mm.
How will he outwit his way? How will he kill Big Lizard?
Yeah. Yeah. Godzilla, I think, for me, was one of the big surprises of the year because I never ever thought I would put a Godzilla on a top 10 list.
Yeah.
I didn't get around to saying it, which really.
But that's the thing. Is like I expected to really like it because everyone was talking about it.
I didn't expect to like it. That's the thing. I expected to fucking hate it.
But I just never realized that I was ever gonna get emotionally connected to it and emotionally invested as I did. Like it's so humanistic. Like, and obviously it's a Godzilla film. It's a big fucking lizard. But
Yeah.
it's human. Its portrayal of human characters is just so fucking good.
It's brilliant. Like when he returns to the village. That whole sequence is incredible.
Amazing.
I find I like the central relationship between his two main characters because that relationship is based on I don't have a home and I'm gonna cling on to you because you're the only home I have now.
Yep.
Like that very idea, and it's never even like spoken in the script, which is very common for Japanese films. Is that a lot of it's sometimes they're very dialogue heavy and exposition heavy, but that thing was like something so subliminal to the heart of the script, and it's a Godzilla film, and it was it's just very I thought it was very powerful.
Yeah, it's just like I don't know if you know Eddie, but like he's a kamikaze pilot, and then he returns home, and immediately his village has been decimated, and the people around him are just like, you are a scum. Like, what the fuck? What the fuck are you here for?
Yeah, it's like you were meant to die for your country, but you're a kamikaze pilot that's come here and still alive. Fuck you.
And it's
the thing is, I think that's genius by the filmmaker as well, whose name currently escapes me, unfortunately. But like, I think that's so brilliant to make the character begin and ready to die. That is his purpose. The character, he's a kamikaze pilot. His purpose is to die, and he spends the script alive.
Yeah.
Like, if you're going to spend, your days alive when everybody knows you're a kamikaze, but I just thought it gave the character so much depth in terms of somebody who's ready to die, and now he's got to find not just the will to live, but he's got to find reasons to live.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Amazing. Like, it's I love like self-critiques and such, and the fact that the film basically opens its messaging with kamikaze pilot not good.
Yeah.
It's just great.
So yeah, that was my number 6. Now
I hope we've advertised it well, so you can watch it, Eddie.
Oh yeah, hopefully you are raring to go. Soon as you.
Oh, I am raring.
Soon.
I just wish I could have seen it in cinema. Like I'm just.
No, I feel like it would. But that was another thing as well. Like we did mention Rhyd, but like the actual production level of it, like as well as it's Ryan, it looks fucking great. Like it's really small budget. I know it's different when transitioning because I know it relates to like 50 million budget over a year, but it's not even close to the same because the way the way the currency works, it doesn't work out the same. But
I mean, like it really shows how much bullshit $300 million budget films are. Like you look at fucking shit like The Flash and shit, and it's just like, what the hell is this budget going towards when you get fucking films like Godzilla -1 that with fucking tiny, well, not tiny budgets, but it's like that is competency.
Yeah,
it's competency on display is what they're doing with the money.
Yeah. So yeah, that was my number 6. My number 5 is a film which we're probably gonna have to talk about because I haven't seen any of you mention it. I don't know if you like it or if you've seen it. Number 5 was The Iron Claw.
Oh, I did.
I do really want to watch it because like it sounds like The Wrestler, and I think The Wrestler is maybe Aronofsky's only good film. Because I think that The Wrestler is incredible. But is it like The Wrestler?
I've not seen The Wrestler.
You know what? I'm just gonna just stop.
I would imagine so. Like it's such a thing for me because like as a kid, I was like heavily invested in wrestling. So obviously,
Same.
I'm well aware of the industry, and I'm well aware of how fucking terrible the industry is. And I knew, like, I had heard of them because I know, um, as a kid, like, you hear of the family, and obviously one of them was in WWE. Um, but yeah, it's it'd be tough trying to find such a just tragic human story than that.
Mm.
It's fucking rough, man. Fuck hell. I came out the cinema with my mate and we literally both couldn't talk. Like, just it was horrendous. But
Yeah, check out yeah, but judging by that, you're gonna love The Wrestler.
yeah, because
Yeah,
I mean, it's such a fascinating thing because the industry itself, obviously, it's the way it's portrayed is this big flashy over the top thing, but the root of it, it's a fucking absolute cesspool of shit. Like, it's so bad. Specifically on obviously the physical side, but then the mental side is just even worse. And I just think the way that it deals with all of the brothers, like, mentally, and how like the damaging relationship of it all, like, there's a scene towards the end and there's one line that's said and it's just like, fuck, like, I just want to fucking roll up in a ball and cry. But yeah, it's just, yeah, it's horrendous in a good way. In a good way.
Yeah, I love films like that, so I am looking forward to seeing it, but I haven't got out as much as to the cinema as I mean,
Yeah.
first of all, getting out to the cinema, I mean, it saves me so much money.
Yeah.
It saves me so much money by not going to the cinema.
But that's the thing as well. Like, I've never really been impressed or like got Zac Efron, but
Yeah.
he's genuinely fucking great. Now, like, I
Yeah, I
understand.
heard a
Oh
lot
yeah,
of-
he's definitely talented. Just
If you like Zac Efron, I hear there's a new film out called Ricky Stanicky or some shit.
Any John Cena fans?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of John Cena, but I'm not watching that.
I will.
I'm not watching it. I actually read Dylan's review, and Dylan was just like, "Yeah, it's alright."
Yeah, he was like John Cena. John Cena's good.
Yeah, John Cena's good.
But yeah, it's amazing. It's so good. You should both definitely check it out.
Yeah, I really wanted to, but that was one I just couldn't find time to go and see.
Yeah.
But I heard a lot about how emotionally devastating it was.
Oh, it is, especially when you think, like, it's like, it's a true story, and then you're just like, how the fuck is this even happening?
Yeah,
It becomes almost non-believable, but it is, like, it's
yeah.
So yeah, that was number 5. Number 4 was Guardians 3. It's funny, we talked about so much about I hate fucking Marvel, and then end up with a Marvel film as my number 4. But I mean,
Yeah.
there's not really much else that I said that I didn't write on Letterboxd in the review. But
Yeah.
It is an anomaly in Marvel's current age, or just as a Marvel film. It's an anomaly.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it is just because, like, I think James Gunn is an actual filmmaker, and
Yeah.
as much as obviously it's a conveyor belt line of just shite, there's definitely somehow, I don't know how he does it, but there's a voice with all all three of them. Like, most specifically 2 by far.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I just there's such an endearing way that he cares for the characters, and you can definitely feel it in by just. And
Do you know the only thing I don't like about 3 is that it feels like he originally wrote it for Rocket to die, because if you actually check it, where on the ship where it feels like Rocket should perhaps die, Rocket has basically nothing to do with the rest of the film.
Yeah.
There's like after the big emotional sort of turning point, without like sort of like spoiling things. After the big emotional turning point, Rocket, it's like his arc is done, but he's just there in the film, and he basically has nothing to do with it.
Well, you also got to remember as well, the big Marvel machine would have fucked him over as well, because
Oh, yeah.
obviously they were in
Yeah.
other films, and then they decided to kill off Gamora, and it.
Yeah,
So
it's a stroke of genius that James Gunn actually made that work
Yeah.
in that third film
Yeah.
with the whole.
There was like a not like a monologue, but there was like there was a lot of dialogue, an earlier scene really where it felt like he was directly making fun of what happened.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't remember what that was, but I definitely caught on to it as well. Now you say it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because there was a lot of dialogue in that scene, but in the lot of dialogue, there was a case of, oh yeah, but I died, and it's like, yeah, but I'm different, sort of thing. It felt like he was directly making fun of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the Guardians was in both of yours, right? Or
It wasn't in mine. It was, I think.
did someone? Oh, did someone mention it?
Yeah, I did. I did. I think it's like 7 or 8 on mine.
Oh,
Mine's
yeah.
not too far out. I think mine's about 20, 23, 24 on my list.
Okay. Yeah, that's fair. My number 3 is Killers of the Flower Moon, but as I said, it could be 2.
Yeah.
My number 2 is Oppenheimer, and
brilliant film.
my number 1 is The Zone of Interest.
Oh, I haven't seen it.
I
do want to see it.
Yeah, and I think that this is where I wanted to say, I wanted to compare 1 and 3 and talk about them together, because the specific. I'll mention Killers of the Flower Moon because you've seen it, Rhyd, and you talked about the ending. I think the ending is legit unbelievable in the sense that when Scorsese comes out, it's like I said to you, Eddie, Friday, I think it questions everything, not just the film, but the art form in general, and are we what does film even mean? Are we able to really to do justice to these stories? Am I even the person who should be telling it? Are we even able to consume this properly without the actual tragedies? It goes beyond the art form itself, and again, I after seeing The Zone of Interest, I think I literally think it's probably the most important film of the 20 of since 2000. Or if not ever, because I think again with Killers of the Flower Moon, I think The Zone of Interest does that again, but even more so, in questioning the actual art form itself. What is film? What are we? What are we doing as a consumer? Consuming these tragedies, or should these even be portrayed? Should these how do we tackle them?
No, 100%. I think both of those. I think, like you say, the Scorsese moment. I don't want to spoil for Rhyd what happens at the end of Zone of Interest, but that specific cut, both of those two moments were moments where my jaw kind of just drops, and I was like, that's amazing that these two films are doing this and actually challenging the viewer and just being like, how are we supposed to tell this? How are you supposed to digest this? And what does this mean about where life is now, and how these stories still exist in the present, and in what way they are manufactured to still exist and still be allowed to happen.
Yeah.